All right. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is a little more Dragon Quest Monsters here. I've already beaten the full plot here on the channel, so if you haven't seen that, feel free to check that out. But I can't stop playing the demo. The game's just fun. So what I wanted to do here was actually go a little bit into depth on what all monsters you can actually get, whether through finding them or via synthesis, as well as the different skills that they can have if you find them out in the wild, as well as where to find them, because some of them can only be found during like certain seasons. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start today with the slime family and take a look at all the monsters there. So let's get started. All right, so the very first monster we're going to be looking at here is the slime, just standard old slime. Everyone knows this guy. If you've played any Dragon Quest game, he's been in the franchise since the beginning. And as the game series grew more popular, he's kind of become the mascot of the franchise. But if we look over here, you can see the star ratings for his growth rates. His HP, defense, attack, and wisdom are all pretty bad. His MP's 2 stars, which for the demo, 4 stars the highest I've seen in anything so far, so 2 stars really not that bad. Agility being 3 star is really good. It means that if you have him on your team, odds are he's going first. So if we go in here, again, there's his stars. But odds are, when you start playing the game, this guy is going to be the very first thing you run into out in the wild. And realistically, he's probably the first thing you should be recruiting as well. So first thing he gets is Frizz, just a little fire spell, nothing really special. But then he gets Heal. This is more likely than not going to be the first access you get in the game to the Heal spell. And that alone kind of makes his Slimer skill tree worth passing on to at least one thing. I'm not saying the Slimer skill tree is something you're going to be keeping around for a very long time. I mean, at the point I'm at in the demo, I don't even have it on anything I'm really using. But by the time I got to the end of the demo, I was still using it. And his Slime Squisher skill is probably the furthest you're going to go in it, because Slime Squisher just does more damage to other slimes. Which, again, in the demo, not a huge deal, but in the full game, there'll be stronger slimes. There's King Slimes, there's Slime Knights. So Slime Squisher could be useful. Zaps, just same thing as Frizz, but electric instead of fire. Accelerate just increases the agility of an ally for a few turns. And then Dazzle Flash lowers enemies' accuracy and mid-heals a stronger heal. Auto Restore is just like regen, you get a little bit of health at the end of each turn, but honestly, from Dazzle Flash down, you're probably not going to have this skill set long enough to get those. But again, his just Frizz, Heal, and Slime Squisher alone kind of make this worth having for a little while. And then the passives he's got here is Zapmeister, which makes his Zap spell a little bit stronger, so you might unlock that as well. It'll take a little less MP as well. Critical Triumph makes it easier for him to inflict critical hits. And then Big Bully makes him do more damage to large monsters, which in the demo, I think you only fight 1 or 2 in tournaments. I know Gorgeous George had one. I can't remember if there was one in the next tournament. And then other than that, the only large monsters are like the Cyclops, the Green Dragon, and the other dragon I haven't fought yet in the second area. But he has to be level 40 to get that one, which is going to take a lot of grinding. As far as finding him out in the wild, though, you can actually have 2 separate sub-talent trees, and those are going to be Zap Ward and Agility Booster 1. So if we go in here and take a look at those real quick, you can see here Agility Booster 1 just increases his agility and his HP. It could be decent if you're trying to pass on heal spells to a slower ally or a slower monster through synthesis. But otherwise, I think there's far better skill sets like to pass on, like Zap Ward, which gives 16 wisdom at the first step instead of 4 agility, 16 magic points instead of 4 hit points. And like you see the gains from Zap Ward from the wards are generally much larger than the just plain boosters, but they're spread out a little bit more. So, well, this one isn't really. This one's just wisdom and MP for the most part. But of the two, I definitely think Zap Ward's the better one you can get here. And then we can talk about his weaknesses. He's got a decent amount of resistances, only weak to fire or earth, dark, and then MP absorption. Haven't really ran into a lot of MP absorption in the demo. I know there was at least one thing that did it, but honestly, unless you're going for trying to beat the large monsters in the wild areas, I don't know that the demo has enough for you to worry about resistances. So the next slime you're going to probably run into out in the wild is going to be the wing slime. You find him in the same area you find the normal slime, just a little further in. And he's very much a mage. His attack isn't awful. Defense is pretty low. HP is low. But he's got decent wisdom. Really good MP, really good agility. So he's probably going to be going first and using spells, which works because he gets Whoosh very early on, which is an AoE wind elemental spell. He also gets Accelerate, which Slime had. You know, raises the agility of an ally. And you see you get that a lot earlier than Slimer's skill gave. Sandstorm, it lowers the accuracy of enemy attacks for a few turns. That's not a bad thing to have, especially again if you're trying to go for against stronger monsters. Just not getting hit is the best way to live. Acceleratal is the same thing as Accelerate, just AoE. And then Insulate's going to make you take less damage from breath attacks on a single ally, which is huge because breath attacks do a lot of damage. The only downside is Insulate is single target and all breath attacks tend to be AoE. Wind Sickles is minor wind elemental damage on a single enemy, but then you get Insulatal, which is just Insulate AoE. Breakwind is going to reflect the breath attack on the enemy, but it only protects all allies a single time. And then Thin Air inflicts medium wind elemental damage on all enemies, and the higher the user's level, the greater the damage. So the actual level of your monster is part of the equation for determining how much damage this does. Not gonna lie, I actually think this is a really, really good skill set. The not necessarily for like a main offensive unit, but between Acceleratal and Insulatal alone, the potential for support builds out of this are really good. And then you have Breakwind on top of that, which again, if you're going against something like the Green Dragon and you can actually get the 100 skill points in this tree to get Breakwind, he uses Fire Breath a lot. Just stopping him from doing 100 something points of damage to your entire party and then damaging him back is huge. And then again, him being something you can find out in the wild means that he has 2 separate secondary trees. And those are going to be Frizz Ward, which you can see here give a good amount of wisdom, HP, and MP. And then his other one is Agility Booster again. Again, this is another one I think Frizz Ward's superior, especially on Wing Slime, because he is kind of a caster. So having that extra wisdom for more magic damage, extra MP for more spells is really good. And then since his HP is so low, the little bit of bonus HP he gets here and there isn't bad. Especially when compared to the HP gains over here. Like, he gets 4 per HP notch, which means that by the time he has 30 points here, he's got 8 HP, which he's got over here at 10. Anyways, moving on though, his traits, he's got Ace Evader, makes it easier to avoid enemy attacks. Health Professional increases the potency of healing skills and decreases their MP consumption. Now, he doesn't naturally get any healing skills, but that does mean that this wouldn't be a bad guy to pass on, say, the Slimer skill to. And then he has access to a couple extra offensive spells in Frizz and Zap to take advantage of with his very high Wisdom and MP pool. And then Ultra Crafty Wisher greatly increases the damage inflicted by wind elemental attacks. He's got the skill tree for that already himself. You could probably find better ones to get higher damaging spells, but you know, in and of itself, that's a pretty decent skill for him if you keep him on your party long enough for him to hit level 40. And we come over here, look. Wing Slime, weak to Earth, Dark, and MP absorption, just like normal Slime. Him being flying, weak to Earth seems a little silly to me, but it is what it is there. Now, the next one you're likely to find out in the wild is going to be the Bubble Slime. He can be found in the lower echelon of Conquest. I specifically only found him during the spring. There was some sort of a acid raining or something going on, and I was able to find him out in the wild pretty frequently. As you can see here, he's basically just normal slime, just a little bit slower, hits a little bit harder, has a little bit more defense, and a lot more MP. He's even got the same Slimer skill set tree, so we don't need to talk about that. And then for his skills, he's got Infected Skin. Any enemies that make direct attacks on him can occasionally get poisoned. Insta Excel basically just means that he might cast Accelerate on himself at the beginning of the battle, which can be really handy, especially with how low his base agility is. Because if you're trying to have him heal, having him go first is usually really handy, because a lot of times you need those heals because you already took the damage, not in lieu of taking damage from the enemy during the turn you're casting the spell. And then Ultra Crafty Poisoner just increases his odds of poisoning the enemy. I don't know how that's going to stack with Infected Skin. Maybe it increases the odds there. But otherwise, he's got to synthesize to get like Braveheart or another skill set that's going to give him access to poison. And then we come over here, you see he's got actually a lot more resistances in the elements side than the other slimes did, being only weak to Earth like they were. Normal damage against Dark versus them being weak to it, but still being weak to MP absorption. And then again, him being one that is found out in the wild, he does have two separate skill trees, secondary talent trees. Those are going to be HP Booster, which as you can see here is just extra HP all the way down. Not awful, especially since he's got a pretty good HP pool himself. And then the other one is going to be Poison Preventer, which gives him more HP and MP, as well as makes it more difficult to be poisoned. Again, for him alone, I think the Poison Preventer's tree is superior than the HP up tree. That being said, I could see HP Booster being more useful on someone else with a little bit more bulk. Who will actually talk about this video when I get to him. I'll bring it up. But because it just gives so much extra HP if you've got someone you're building to basically be a wall, HP Booster would be really nice. Next up, we've got the She Slime. As you can see from its growth rates, it's probably the strongest slime we've seen so far. Not quite as much MP as the previous Bubble Slime had, but it's got more HP. Still good MP at 2 stars. 2-star attack, 2-star agility. It's definitely more offensive based than the previous one, and specifically physically offensive, which can be seen in its talent tree here. Spicy Slasher. Flame Slash is going to be pretty similar to Frizz here. It's just Frizz is a spell and Flame Slash is a physical attack, but they both do fire elemental damage. And then you can get Dragon Slash, which is like the Slime Squisher, how it did extra damage to slimes, but this one's effective against dragons. Probably more useful than Slime Squisher in the demo, especially if you're trying to defeat the roaming giant monsters. And then he actually gets some bonus attack through the tree, which is always actually kind of nice. Squelch gets rid of poison on the entire party. Kind of underrated. I wish I would have had that when fighting Gorgeous George. And then Frizzle is going to be a more powerful version of Frizz. Flame Breath is going to be a decent elemental breath damage of fire on all enemies. AoE, breath attack. Breath attacks are almost always good. AoE is great. A little extra attack. And then Flame Splitter is just Frizzle but physical. Come over to his traits here. He's got Frizzmeister. All of his fire elemental attacks are increased in damage, decreased in MP consumption. Rando Excel monsters sometimes cast Accelerate on itself during battle. So it's kind of like the Bubble Slime, how it could at the beginning of battle. This one just kind of happens sometimes during battle. It could be any turn. And Strong Starter is going to make it hit a lot harder at the beginning of the round. First 3 turns. Round 4 and onward, it starts hitting a lot. It's not hitting as hard. So long drawn out fights, he's not going to do as well. But again, that one doesn't kick in until level 40. So if you're just using it on your party, planning on synthesizing it before then, not a problem. Looking at its elements, not quite as many elemental resistances, I don't think, as Bubble Slime. Still only weak to Earth and MP absorption. But yeah, I think Bubble Slime had a few more. Again, not a bad spread though. I don't think explosions came up a whole lot in the game for the demo. But otherwise, no, this is pretty good resistance spread. And then again, with this guy being found out in the wild, he has HP booster, we already talked about, and Zap Ward, which we also already talked about. I don't necessarily think either one of these are necessarily great for She Slime. Zap Ward, probably a little bit better because you got a naturally kind of low MP and Wisdom, but you learn some decent fire spells, so being able to get those up wouldn't be bad. And you don't really have the defense to make increasing your health super worth it. Let's go ahead and jump into the Heal Slime here. Just like She Slime, found out in the lower echelon of Temper. I don't actually remember if I said that in She Slime. Whoops. But both of them were found during the summer. And you see this one has considerably more magic capabilities than anything we've seen so far. Being a Heal Slime, obviously Healer is its skill set. And this is kind of where you're going to be replacing Slimer if you're using it purely for healing. Because 3 points, you automatically get the heal spell, and then you start getting some buffs. Which buff increases defense. Squelch gets rid of poison, we've talked about it. Insulate, we've talked about. Again, really good ability. Only downside is what it protects against is always AoE, and this only hits a single ally. Mid heal, again, we've talked about it. Really good. You actually get it within 50 skill points, which is usable. Zing. Zing's really great when it works, awful otherwise. That chance of failure, I don't know what the actual percentage in this, but it always feels like it's higher than whatever they say it is. Meditation, just basically he can use it to keep himself alive if he's getting low. Mist Me is really nice. Basically just like protect in Pokemon, but it only works once. Just something swings at you and you take no damage. And then Kazing is Zing, but cannot fail. As far as traits, he's got Health Professional, which he should. Makes it to where, healing spells heal better, to cost less MP. Rando Mister gets him sometimes to cast Miss Me on himself during a battle. It can be great. He has little health, okay defense. Your healer not taking damage is a good thing. And then Benefaction massively increases all of the stats of your allies when a killer blow is received. I'm guessing from the wording. Again, I haven't gotten any of these guys up to level 40. But it sounds like when he dies, your allies get stronger. Obviously, you'd rather have your healer still alive. But with how squishy this guy is, that's not awful. As for the secondary skills that Heal Slime can have, he has Defense Booster and Confusion Controller. This is one of those awkward times where I actually want to say that Defense Booster isn't bad, because his biggest weakness is staying alive, and Defense Booster can give him an extra 52 defense and 12 hit points, except for the fact that Confusion Controller gives him an extra 24 hit points and 48 defense, on top of extra resistance to confusion and auto restoro, which is that regen on every action done. So I actually think Confusion Controller is just better for him. That being said, Defense Booster is not bad at 52 extra defense. I just don't think it's correct for him. As for his elemental weaknesses, he's going to have a weakness to Earth and MP Absorption like all other slimes have so far. And fairly comparable resistances otherwise. And that does it for the slimes you can find out in the wild. So next we're going to go ahead and take a look here at the Mottle Slime. This guy's got decent HP, MP, agility, and defense. Not too good on the offensive stats, like most slimes. That being said, his skill set here of Stony Slasher gives him both electrical elemental damage for physical and earth elemental on the spells. The interesting thing about the earth spells is, as you can see here by the description on screen, it happens at the beginning of the next turn. Sounds kind of annoying because your damage is delayed till the beginning of the next turn, but the damage output is incredibly high from this spell from what I've found, so I personally still think Crag's really good with that, especially if you're going up against other slimes, because as you've seen, they're all weak to earth except for probably this guy. Beast Tamer is going to be the same as the other family-specific killing attacks we've seen. Defense plus 8's self-explanatory. Defuddle gets rid of confusion on all allies. That's a godsend if your allies are confused. Stone's Throw is going to be where he starts getting his physical earth damage. Kraggle's just stronger Crag. And then Bright Splitter is going to do light elemental damage on all enemies. Light elemental is really good, and I haven't seen a whole lot of sources of it in the demo so far. As for his traits, he's going to have Sobering Slap, which can occasionally cure sleep and confusion off your allies during battle. I haven't had it proc, but I also haven't had too many allies in sleep or confused. That being said, getting rid of those is never a bad thing. Strangely Alluring allows him to occasionally stun enemies during battle for one turn. Stun is amazing. Stun just means that enemy doesn't get their turn for their attack for that turn. And then Ultra Crafty Sapper is just going to make him do a lot more damage with electrical attacks. He has one ability naturally on his natural tree to take advantage of that. That being said, this would also make him a good beneficiary of other skill trees that give zap attacks. Ironically enough, this guy is still actually weak to earth elemental attacks, as well as dark and MP absorption. Otherwise, he has probably some of the best resistances I've seen so far, being resistant to everything the game has to throw at him except for wind. And this guy being something that has to be synthesized. I just want to show you that the one I have on my party I got by synthesizing a slime with a platypunk. So slime family with a specific beast family helped me get this guy. Next up we have the box slime, and man is this guy wild. So this is the one I was talking about earlier, that the HP tree would actually probably be pretty decent on, because as you can see, he's got really good MP, really good defenses, and decent wisdom, and okay HP. Everything else, his agility and his attack are no good. But this guy is almost a mini tank. As far as his personal skill tree, he's going to have access to heal right away, and then a lot of buffs. He's got accelerate and buff, both of which we've talked about, plus agility, plus defense, ping, which is the same thing but wisdom, oomph, which is the same thing but attack, except oomph actually lasts a little bit less time, insulate, which we've talked about, med heal, which we've talked about, and then oompful, which is AoE oomph. So far from what I've seen in the demo, this is probably the premier support tree. As far as his traits, he's got Ultra Crafty Spellbinder, making it easier for him to prevent spellcasting, which is this game's equivalent of silence. That being said, he doesn't have a way to access that himself through his personal tree, but because you're synthesizing to get him, there are ways to get that on him easy enough. Miraculous Touch is going to allow him to restore half damage done to enemies anytime he uses a regular old attack, which is another part of why I think increasing his HP pool is really nice, because he already has really high defense. That being said, you could also argue giving him attack boosting things to make him do more damage to restore more health as well. And then he has Evasive Impulse, which sometimes increases evasion and greatly increases agility during battle when his HP is dropped to half, but it only activates once per battle. Again, this just helps make sure this guy doesn't die, which is kind of his specialty. Ironically though, for having as much defensive abilities as he's got, his resistances look pretty standard for a slime, with fire and water resistance, explosive resistance, electricity and light, and then being weak to earth and MP absorption. And then again, because I said that you have to fuse for this guy, synthesize to get him, I want to show you that I originally synthesized a she slime, and I think it's a lampling. It was a material type monster. Next up, we're going to have the Drake slime, another rank F slime. And as you can see from his stats, this is probably one of the stronger ones we've seen so far, with wisdom being 1 star and everything else being at least 2. He's got 2 in HP, attack, and defense, 3 in MP and agility. So all around, he's not bad for early game. As far as his skill tree goes here, Shallow Breather, you've got Fire Breath and Cool Breath, which are going to be minor AoE breath attacks. Extra attack, Sandstorm, which we've seen already, lowers the accuracy of enemies. Deep Breath actually makes his next breath attack do more damage, so he can kind of set up to do more damage with his breaths. Some extra attack, and then Flame and Chilly Breath, which are just Fire Breath and Cool Breath, but stronger. As for his traits, he's going to have Ace Evader, which makes it easier for him to avoid enemies. Insta Excel, which you've seen already. And then Critical Moment is going to make it to where whenever he's under half health, he has an increased chance to inflict criticals. And then it's an even larger increase when he gets down to quarter health. As for his resistances, again, pretty standard looking for a slime, nothing special to talk about here. Weak to earth and MP absorption. And then because, again, he is a synthesis, here's a way that I personally see to be able to make him. You can use lower end slimes than the cube slime, but you usually need at least the slime or the dragon to be somewhat fancy. Next up, we've got one of my personal favorite slimes, the Slime Stack. This guy's adorable. It's just 3 slimes stacked on top of each other. But as far as stats go, he's going to have some low HP. Everything else is 2 stars. Here we can see his personal tree is the Zap Aficionado. Again, we were talking earlier about the increased Zap skills on the model slime. This is a tree you might look at putting on him. It gives him the Zap spell early on and Lightning Slash. Numb paralyzes an enemy for 2 to 5 turns. The higher the caster's wisdom, more likely the spell is to succeed. A little bit extra MP. Knuckle Sandwich makes it to where next turn you hit a little bit harder and you ignore the opponent's defense. The ignoring defense is much more important and makes a pretty good skill. Then we got Accelerate and Zapple, which is stronger zap, AoE. His Zapmeister trait's going to make him be able to cast his electrical spells a little bit more powerfully, so it makes up for that not great wisdom and not great MP by not using as much. Dodge Denier is going to make sure that all of his attacks land. That's pretty good, especially if they're fighting something that, you know, either tries to increase its own evasion or lower your accuracy. And then Little Menace makes him do more damage to small size monsters, which, as far as the demo goes, is 90% of what you fight. Resistances aren't not anything too spectacular. He's got a few extra resistances than most slimes, but it is worth mentioning that he's weak to dark, as well as the standard earth and MP absorption that slimes have it going against them. And then again, we're talking about he has to be synthesized. Box Slime and Food Dog is one way that you can look at combining him. But the most important thing is to have a pretty good slime and or material monster. Next up, we're going to have the Slime Shroom. Much like Slime Stack, he's got 1 star in HP, 2 star in everything else. His skill tree here, Irritant, is going to be a lot of debuffs and status effects. Sap's going to lower the enemy's defenses quite a bit. Snooze is going to put them to sleep. Tox is going to poison. Poison attack does damage and can poison. Numb is paralysis. Sleep attack can attack and put him to sleep. Assassin Stab sometimes just kills him. And Knum is AoE paralysis. All in all, not a bad skill tree if you're looking for support, but on the opposite end of buffing. You want a good debuffer. His initial trait straight out the gate is going to make enemies sometimes get confused just by attacking him. And then as you level him up, it makes it easier for him to confuse the enemy. Makes it much easier to the enemy. Well, there's a typo. And then finally, if you keep leveling him long enough for him to hit level 40, you're going to get Defensive Impulse, which reduces the damages he takes when he drops below half health. Just makes him harder to kill when he's getting closer to death. Resistances are nothing special. Weak to earth and magic points absorption. And then the way I see to make this guy is to combine a slime with some sort of undead. Next up, we've got the Snow Mangler. As you can see, he's actually pretty decent here. He's got 2 stars in HP, attack, and agility, and 3 stars in MP, defense, and wisdom. His skill set, Crack Aficionado, is going to look pretty similar to things we've seen before. Just Ice Elemental instead of either fire or electric. Crack is going to be Ice Elemental damage spell. Crackle Slash is Ice Elemental physical. Demon Demeanor is going to be extra damage to the Demon class family. Cool Breath, AoE breath attack. Snooze can put an enemy to sleep. And then Crackle is medium AoE ice damage. This is your bread and butter Ice Elemental skill set. Not that bad. As for his traits, Crackmeister is going to be very similar to what we've seen on a lot of these other guys. More ice damage, less MP used. Instant Excel again. And then Deadly Touch makes sometimes when he attacks, he just kills you. As far as his resistances go, it's going to be considerably different. I believe he's the only slime we've seen so far weak to fire. Other than that, weakness to earth, dark, and MP absorption. Not uncommon for the slime family. And he's another one of those, an undead with a slime. Generally a higher rank either undead or a slime than what you need for the necessarily need for the shroom slime. I would like to apologize. Earlier I said 4 stars is the highest I've seen on anything. I forgot about the shell slime. This guy is going to have 5 stars in defense, with 1 star in attack and agility, 2 stars in HP and wisdom, and 3 stars in MP. This is probably the strongest defensively speaking tank in the game so far. As for his personal skill tree of Defender, it is going to be very defense oriented, obviously. Very support heavy. with buff and heal, 2 spells we've already seen. Attack Attacker does damage to an enemy and may lower their attack damage stat, which is another roundabout way of increasing your defenses. Dazzle Flash lowers the enemy's accuracy. Best way to survive is not to get hit. AoE buff. Intense Defense is going to be a very interesting skill he gets. You can only use it once per battle, but when you use it, odds of you dying that turn are very, very low. If you get... It actually pairs very well with his capstone of this skill set of Selflessness, which makes him receive all incoming damage in place of allies for 1 round, but you take more damage doing so. So what you can do is, if you're at full health, use this and take lots of damage, and then use Intense Defense the next turn to help survive while you get healed back up. That being said, that strategy again only works once per battle because of the limitations of Intense Defense. Having instant buff on his traits just again helps make set in stone how much of a defender this guy is, in that sometimes he just comes in already ready to defend. Spiky Skin returns 1/4 of all damage he takes from direct attacks back at the attacking enemy. Assuming that the attacks of the enemies are going to be very highly physical, combining this with Selflessness can actually highly increase the amount of damage he will do in a single turn. And then Ulticrafted Paralyzer just makes paralysis more likely. You've got to get that on them somehow though. As for his resistances, they're nothing uncommon for the slimes. He's one of the ones weak to dark, otherwise earth and MP absorption like everyone else. Decent amount of resistances or otherwise. As far as trying to get a shell slime, you're going to be needing to combine a beast type with a slime. You don't need as high a rank one as the box slime for this. I'm just using him so I don't have to jump around so much. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have the feral slime, who has 3 stars in attack, 2 stars in HP, defense, agility, and wisdom, and little MP. His signature talent tree, Fighter, really drives home the fact that he is here to do damage, with Helm Splitter being the first thing you're going to get, having the chance to lower the enemy's defense, making him able to do even more damage. Heartbreaker has the chance to stun the enemy. Frenzy has the will always inflict a critical hit, but the target is random and includes your team as well, so use with caution. Stone's Throw is earth elemental damage on a single enemy, physical. Hatchet Man is... I love Hatchet Man. If you love to gamble in games, Hatchet Man is your attack. Hits the enemy, very high chance of missing, but whenever it hits, it has a very high chance of hitting a crit. Roundhouse is a physical AoE attack. That being said, it does less damage the further away from the first target you get, with the first target always being the furthest left. Warcry has a chance to stun all enemies for a turn. That can be a game changer if you need a turn to recoup. And then Knuckle Sandwich, we've seen, does very high damage, ignores the enemy's defense. Again, just really trying to drive home the fact that Feral Slime is here to do damage and not much else. His first trait is going to be Rando Oomph, which means every turn there's a chance of him just casting Oomph on himself at the end of battle, or at the end of the turn. And as he levels, he'll get the same thing with Accelerate, and eventually his basic attacks will have the chance to just poison enemies. As far as his resistances go, while he has a few less resistances than most monsters we've seen so far, he actually is not weak to Earth, making him be the first slime we've seen without an elemental weakness. However, he does still have that MP absorption weakness, so don't expect this guy to have a whole lot of spell casting going on. And as far as getting this guy goes, you're going to need a slime and a beast again. This time you're going to need a little bit higher end on one of the two though than what you needed for the shell slime. Next up we've got the scallop slime. This guy's got pretty decent defense, but very low HP to go alongside of it. So the HP boost plus 1 skill tree wouldn't be a bad idea on this guy. As probably the most direct replacement for Slimer, he's going to have the Splash Aficionado tree. First ability, he's going to have his Splish, which is a minor water elemental spell on a single target, and then he gets Heal and Slime Squisher, just like on the Slimer tree. Some extra MP, and then he gets Weird Dance, which decreases the MP of a single target. That can be really useful if you've got an opponent that specifically has dangerous abilities like breath attacks, bang, something that's very scary AoE, or someone trying to hit you with Hatchet Man. Blunt's going to lower an opponent's offensive capabilities, and then Splash is just going to be a more powerful version of Splish. Defensive Impulse makes a return as this guy's beginning trait, as well as he eventually gets Rando Buff, and Metal Medley, which allows him to ignore the damage-reducing effect that the Metal Skin trait provides. This ability is something that'll be incredibly useful outside the demo, when you start having to fight Metal Slimes. In the demo, I've yet to see a Metal Slime. As far as resistances go, nothing to write home about. They're very similar to other things we've seen. Lots of elemental resistances, weak to Earth, Dark, and MP Absorption. And as far as crafting this guy goes, it's again a slime and a material lower in the slime stack took. Next up, we've got the Buddy Slime, and this guy's got a pretty good MP and Wisdom. His standard talent tree of Nature's Child puts him in a very good supportive position, giving him access to Squelch and Heal to get rid of poison and heal your team, as well as Drain Magic to restore his own MP. Snooze and Sleep Attack can put the enemies to sleep. Dazzle can bedazzle enemies. Fizzle prevents enemies from casting spells. And Miracle Slash is actually like a draining attack. You hit the opponent, you heal some health. As well as he can eventually get Auto Kadabra, which allows him to restore a small amount of MP after each action. As for his traits, he gets Rando Ping early on, giving himself a boost in Wisdom sometimes during fights, as well as Paralyzing Touch will unlock at level 20, allowing him to occasionally paralyze enemies when he hits them. And at 40, he gets Ace Evader, making it easier for him to evade attacks. As for resistances, again, very similar to other slimes we've seen, weak to Earth, Dark, and MP Absorption. As far as synthesizing your own Buddy Slime, you're going to be looking at combining a slime with some sort of nature. Lower end on both seems to work fine. Continuing the slime and nature combination, we have the Onion Slime. His best stat is going to be Agility, his worst will be Wisdom, everything else will be in between. As far as his talent tree goes, he also has Nature Child, just like the Buddy Slime does. His first trait he's going to have will be Cragmeister, which will allow him to do more damage with Earth spells and decrease their MP consumption. Not having any access to this on his personal tree, this skill set would have to be transferred in through the synthesis. Model Slime is a potential candidate for that. Ultra Crafty Dazzler will make his bedazzlement from his own dazzle spells work better, and Rando Mister occasionally makes him cast Mist Me on himself during battle. As far as his resistances go, he is another one of those not weak to Earth. That being said, he has a few less resistances than most slimes, weak to Dark and MP Absorption. And as I already stated, he, much like the Buddy Slime, is a slime combined with nature, a little bit higher end. Next up, we're going to have the Fright Bulb. This one you can actually get as your starter if you so choose at the beginning of the game. Otherwise, you have to synthesize for him. He's going to have very good MP, decent stats, low HP. His skill Soothsayer is going to give you heal at the very beginning, so if you take him as your starter, this will actually be your earliest access to the heal spell. He will also get Sizz, which is AoE light elemental damage, as well as a lot of decent buffs through Buff, Insulate, Snooze. And then he will get Gobstopper, which is going to make it impossible for opponents to use breath attacks. This is incredibly powerful against most dragons, since a lot of dragon enemies have breath attacks. We've seen Warcry and Mist Me. Right as Rain performs a rain-making ritual that invokes a healing shower in the next turn. Restores a random amount of HP to all allies. I have not put 120 skill points into this, but this sounds like the kind of RNG gambling bullshit that I personally would love. Out the gate, he's going to have Ultra Crafty Stunner, making anything he uses to stun the enemy more effective, as well as Evasive Impulse at level 20, making his evasion increase when he drops below half health once per battle. At 40, he gets Ace Evader to always have the higher evasion. Combining that with Evasive Impulse, under half health, his evasion will be pretty high. As far as resistances go, he has no elemental weaknesses, which is pretty nice, especially with still having a decent amount of resistances to them. Only weakness being MP absorption, like all other slimes. If you decide not to go with Frightbolt as your starter, you can combine a slime with a demon type to synthesize one of your own. And while that's going to be the end of the list of slimes I've been able to find that you can get in the demo, I do want to talk about one that you can't. And that's going to be what happens if you combine a box slime with a bubble slime. All it tells me is I can't get this monster in the demo and that it's a question mark. Seeing as I'm combining two slimes, I can only assume it's also going to be a slime. But I don't know if it's just going to be a very high ranking power-wise F rank slime, like maybe it's like a metal slime and they're like, oh, I don't want to give you a metal slime that's too strong. Or maybe it could be easy access to an E rank slime in the full game. So if you plan on using slimes a lot, I recommend having the box slime and bubble slime ready to go out the gate for the full title to get this guy as soon as you can. But that's going to be it for my video on the different types of slimes that are available in the demo. I don't know if I beat the large monsters, if I can actually possibly scout them by actually defeating them, and if so, if I can synthesize them with the other slimes I have to find more. I do plan on trying to beat those guys again before the game comes out, so if that happens, I'll let you guys know what happens there. But otherwise, let me know. Did you enjoy this? Would you like to see me do some of these for some of the other families, like maybe some dragons, undead, beasts, all of them? And let me know down in the comments, what was your favorite slime? But that is going to be it for this guide. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and comment if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more of these guides. And I will see you in the next video. Until then, take care.